The goal in rationalizing the denominator is to get rid of the radical in the denominator. The way we do that is we multiply by a funky form of 1 that includes whatever the radical in the denominator is. So in this case, we have a radical 5. So we're going to multiply the numerator and the denominator by radical 5. Since radical 5 over radical 5 is just a funky form of 1, we're allowed to do that. In the numerator, we have 4 times, underneath the radical, 3 times 5. In the denominator, we have radical 5 times radical 5, which is just radical 25, which becomes, in the denominator, just a 5. Now we no longer have a radical in the denominator. In the numerator, we have 4 radical 15. We cannot simplify any farther, so our final answer is 4 radical 15 over 5. To simplify this radical, it is going to be most efficient to simplify the radical before we try to rationalize. So what we notice in the numerator, we have a 12, which is just 2 times 6 times radical 5. In the denominator, we have 18, which is 3 times 6 radical 10. Radical 10 is 5 times 2. You can simplify things that are alike. So since 6 in the numerator and 6 in the denominator are both outside the radical, we can simplify. So we have a 6 and a 6 that just become 1. In the numerator and the denominator, we have a radical 5. Since they're underneath the radical, we may simplify. 5 and 5. So before we've attempted to rationalize, we have 2 divided by 3 radical 2. Now we want to rationalize the denominator because we do not want a radical in the denominator. Since the radical in the denominator is root 2, we're going to multiply the numerator by root 2 and the denominator by root 2. When we multiply across, we have 2 radical 2 in the denominator, and we have 3 times radical 2 times radical 2. Remember, the whole reason why we multiplied by root 2 over root 2 is that the 2 could actually break out. So now in the numerator, we still have 2 radical 2, and in the denominator, we have 3 times 2 because our 2 can break out of our radical. Now we can multiply 3 times 2 and get 6, but it's going to be more efficient to notice that there's a 2 in the denominator and a 2 in the numerator. So we can reduce the fraction early. So we end up with our final answer is radical 2 over 3. There are other ways to do this problem, but if you simplify as you go, it will end up being the most efficient way possible.